What's going on, everybody? My name is Terminus, and welcome back to another episode of Monogatari for the second to last time now. It's Monogatari. It should be Monogatari Saturday, but for me right now, it is Tuesday. Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. I'm gonna go to my lecture in around 2 hours, so we're gonna have like 1.5 hours for this episode. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna watch the episode. What happened last time? Very good question. Last time Deathtopia actually woke up, we did the ritual, we did all of the stuff, and now we're awaiting our two crazy laughing friends to reunite and actually talk it out, and we'll see how she reacts to Araragi, how she reacts to and interacts with Guy, and what we're gonna do, if Kagenui is gonna drop in, if somebody else gonna show up, I don't know, Kaiki, Yoshino, I don't think so, but you know, it's Monogatari, it could be coming anytime, right? Yeah, pretty much that's about it, right? We were very anxious last time, we laughed like maniacs, and now we're right here looking into each other's eyes, and we're gonna see what happens next, right? We still have the mystery to solve with the basketball team, so we're probably gonna touch base with Kanbaru at some point in time and then try to figure that out if Deathtopia doesn't have any hints or clues or whatever. She is still the prime suspect, but obviously we do suspect that there's somebody else behind this. Alright, but next time is the finale, which makes me very sad, but at the same time, we're probably gonna do something. I don't have that much time to do stuff because my exam is gonna be the week right after, so... But there's probably gonna be a discussion video after episode 14 reaction. There's probably gonna be a common spotlight in the beginning if I can actually make that happen. Why do I keep snapping my fingers? I have no idea, but let's get into it. Let's get into Monogatari. Off-season, monster season, episode 13, and it should be Shinobumonogatari episode 5. Right, chapter 36. Let's get this started. The first frame is, I think, one of the, like, we'll decide afterwards, right? It's gonna be here on screen. 3, 2, 1, bam! And we're going right back into the laughing. I do love that, it's kind of a Kisu laugh, right? Like, how it's like echoing. Ooh, what the fucking shot, holy shit. That was a high quality shot. I just keep laughing. You sure? Araragi isn't really a human. I mean, he's kind of, but... The monkey? Nice. And we're back in Kanbaru's room. Was found? Ooh, her belongings, but not her herself. What a weird place. Yeah. Yeah. How did she leave, right? She's Nadeko after all. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. The window, or the frame.
しかも吸血鬼が学校の中にまで踏み込んでいるという事態は女子バスケットボール部員にとって危険すぎる。 そして奇跡ちゃんに限って隠蔽工作をした理由を推定すると、結構嫌な結論にたどり着いちゃうんだよ、コヨミン。つまり私たちがミイラの所持品から個人を特定しているという捜査情報が相手にバレたということだから。私たちの捜査情報が吸血犯側に漏れている可能性が高い。
Somebody's in on it?
それは最悪のニュースだった。
Oh, the hole through the wall. Holy shit. Somebody speaking in on our conversations. But who? But Hachikuji wouldn't? Gan wouldn't? Aragi himself wouldn't? They could be doing something with the cell phones, right? Or just observing us in a way. But the only ones really knowing about this incident are the part of like the basketball team alumni and I mean Meniko, but I don't think Meniko is engaged in this. She's university, so this is separate. Part 5, Shinobu Mastered. Alright. Ooh, purple. Okay. Ooh, okay. And they were all like... So, I guess Suicide Master created the vampire and the vampire created them. Hmm.
拒食症の吸血鬼が上に負けて、その辺の女子高生に手当たり次第手を出したのだとしても、
Yeah.
もしもミイラ化
Ooh, the shadows of the tree.
戻せたなら、今回の件で裁かれることはなくなりますか?
Ooh, right.
いわばスーサイドマスターは600年間ダイエットを続けてきたようなものだ。男性は一度決壊するとものすごい勢いでリバウンドするからね。暴飲暴食、原因馬食だ。
でも、
まあそうせくないよ、小読み。スーサイドマスターの犯行を否定する材料だってあるんだ。1000年生きた太古の吸血鬼が女子高生に忍び込んでこそこそロッカーに細工したなんて陳説に
Yeah.
ほどの蓋然性があるって言うんだい?
It doesn't sound plausible. Well, at least not.
スーサイドマスター自身がミイラ化していた理由も、その仮説では今のところ説明がつかない。
Because she would be full.
緊張感ががぜん増しただけで、本人から話を聞くしかない状況に変わりはなさそうだ。
お前様。スーサイドマスターがお前様と話がしたいそうじゃ。会ってやってくれるか?
And she's saying Omae-sama, so I think the secret is out?
俺様が決死にして必死にして万死の吸血鬼デストピアビルツオーゾスーサイドマスターだぜ。
The voice acting, holy shit.
思考よれ。
はじめまして、荒木小読みです。
そうかしこまるな。俺様は貴様に礼を言いたくて呼んだんだからよ。まあそれだけってわけでもねえが、まずは礼だ。
礼ですか?
いくつかある。まずはどうやらまた死んでしまったらしい俺様を蘇らせてくれたこと。そしてそれよりも俺様の眷属だったキッショット・アセロラ・オリオン・ハート・アンダーブレードを蘇らせてくれたこと。礼を言う。
ま、あらかた話しておる。
He figured it. I love the color composition.
否定しておるぞ。
眷属っつってもアセロラ姫キッショットにはすぐにのれん分けして独立させたからな。保護者面をしてしゃしゃり出るのも脱線だが、この国で退治されたなんて噂を聞いちゃ隠居してもいられなかった。一応無事を確認しておきたくてよ。あんまり無事とは言えなかったみてえだが、生きてるだけでめっけもんだ。 何にせよ会えてよかったぜ。
死んだと思うとったのはこっちも同じじゃがの。
で、キッショットの無事も確認できたし、俺様としてはさっさとアジトに帰りてんだが、なんだか気なくせえことになってるらしいじゃねえか。物は相談なんだが、これもよしみだ。俺様の出国を手伝ってくれねえか。言っちまえば俺様は嬉しいわけよ。あの美しい姫がどうやら理想の王子様を見つけたらしいってオチを知ることができて。だがせっかくだから、
holy shit, the moon.
お手並みを拝見させてほしいって気持ちもある。どうだ、ここは一つ俺様を助けちゃくれねえか。
忍の類縁は僕の類縁ですからやぶさかじゃありませんが、その前にはっきりさせたいことがあります。はっきりさせなくちゃいけないことが。スーサイドマスター、あなたはどうしてミイラになって地中に埋まっていたんですか？あなたほどの存在が。
地中に埋まってたってのは俺様の預かり知るところじゃねえな。誰かが勝手に埋めたんだろ。
誰か。
ミイラ化した理由の方はもう少し簡単に説明がつくぜ。1000年生きたこの俺様もあんな死に方をしたのは覚えている限り初めてだったな。
どういうことですか？死因は何だったんですか？
Yeah, what was the cause of death? Because she starved before. What?
食中毒。
I'm sorry, what?
変なもん食った。日本語では女子高生って言うんだっけ、あの食材。
Kie? Was it Kie? I don't. Maybe it was not Kie.
1週間前のことか。俺様はこの町にやってきたわけだ。俺様の生んだ
The Mills.
ショットアセロラオリオンハートアンダーブレードの安否を確認しようって腹だったわけだが、到着早々俺様の安否が知れなくなったってんだから心底笑える。着陸に失敗し粉々になって、どうやらまた死んでしまったらしい。町を守る結界、その結界のせいで粉々の木っ端みじんになったって話じゃねえぜ。あくまで着陸失敗による自滅だ。そこの神様が仕掛けた結界はそんな攻撃的なもんじゃねえ。そっと迷わす進路妨害の結界。
Yeah, like Hachikuji. That is cool.
全く作動しなかったって点なんだ。そう、俺様は強力な結界を凄まじいパワーで突破して入国してきたわけじゃねえ。その凄まじいパワーがなかったからこそすんなり入国できたってわけだ。ここまで弱体化しているとは我ながら愕然としたね。
Eating away at the apple, that is great.
俺様は完全体を見かけだけでも維持できないところまで追い詰められていたようだ。
Yeah.
どうやら妖体化してしまったらしい。こんな状態で会いに行っても休校を温めるどころか心配をかけることしかできねえだろう。俺様にも1000年生きた誇りってもんがあった。
Oh, holy shit. Don't want to see her like this.
要は見栄を張りたかったのさ。
So you actually...
失望されたくなかった。こいつ変わったなぁと思われたくもなかったし。
Oh, there's so much in there.
と思われたくもなかった。ただこう思われたかった。これでこそ我が友と思ってほしかった。完全体になるのは無理でもせめて上っ面だけでも着飾ろうと思った。だから現地の食材に手を出した。
Alright. Got a feast?
神様の暮らす山を降りて夜道を一人歩く女子高生に俺様は目星をつけた。
Alright.
って誰でもよかった。だから罰が当たった。
And that's true, okay.
ここで選別するような真似をしたらその食材が美し姫に並んじまうことになる。まあ何にしても今から思えば食材に対する敬意がねえよな。
Yeah, just choose anything.
国のテーブルマナーにいただきますとごちそうさまってのがあるだろう。あれが俺様にはよくわかんなくてよ。食材への感謝ってなんだそりゃ。わけがわからんと。食べるってのはもともと最高に 命をおもちゃにする行為のはずなんだがね。娯楽だよ。
Like a cat.
こそ俺様にとって食べることは生きることではなく、
Eating wasn't to love.
愛することだ。あの時俺様はいただきますを言うべきだったんだろう。法に言っては業に従って、それが俺様の業だったはずだ。にもかかわらず無節操に女子高生に食らいついた。罰が当たった。その結果が食中毒だ。
But why?
女子高生の毒に当たって俺様はどうやらまた死んでしまったらしい。
I don't quite understand, but I'm sure I will.
どういうことだ。その話だとスーサイドマスターは女子高生を毒火にかけた直後にあのようにカラカラに干からびてしまったということになってしまう。
But what caused that?
被害者は4人、ないしは5人の女子高生だ。それなのに最初の時点でミイラ化していては連続性が断たれる。
吸血鬼化に失敗してミイラになるって線を基調にするんだったら、吸血に失敗してミイラ化するって線も念頭に置くべきだった。知っちゃいたんだが、そんな例は貴重だから。
なるほど。ミイラ化した経緯は分かった。食中毒に陥り緊急避難的な官民としてのミイラになったスーサイドマスターを、じゃあ山に埋めたのは誰なんだという謎についてはまるっきり解決していない。
Probably the one she bit into, right?
ミイラになった女子高生、吸血に失敗してミイラ化した吸血鬼、ここにもう一パターン付け加えるとすれば、
吸血鬼化に成功した女子高生だね。一連の犯行がどうにもちぐはぐで噛み合わなかった理由がやっと分かった。
The first victim.
じゃなかった。吸血鬼が途中から入れ替わっていた。
入れ替わり？
Exactly.
美食の吸血鬼が日本の未成年ばかりを連続で狙うなんてエチケットのなさは。
What a painting of shit.
しかしそれが女子高生が女子高生を狙っていたのだとすれば、しっくりくる。
The guard would already be lowered, right?
ではなく、女子バスケットボール部員が女子バスケットボール部員を狙っているのだとすれば、もっとしっくりくる。
Exactly.
動機はいくらでも考えつく。たった一人だけ監視されていない女子バスケットボール部員がいることに、こんな状況になるまで気づかないなんて、僕は本当にどうかしている。奇跡そうは。
Yeah, I mean, doesn't have to be Kie, right? But how did she get vampirized then? Yeah, I mean, I thought that in the beginning of the episode.
メニコに解いてもらった2つのリビングメッセージ、あるいは署名にしたってそうだ。スーサイドマスターが奇跡ちゃんを吸血する際、デストピア・ビルトゥーゾ・スーサイドマスターと己の名前を名乗っただろう。つまり、
But that doesn't add up, right?
吸血鬼の名を奇跡ちゃんは把握していて、しかも彼女のミイラを山に埋め隠したことから考えて、その
Or am I confusing the names?
スーサイドマスターのせいにしようと目論んだ。人間らしく単語帳にダイイングメッセージを残した口本京美ちゃんは、自分を襲った吸血鬼がかつての仲間だと気づけずにフェイクに引っかかって B7779 というメッセージを残してしまったのかもしれない。あるいはメッセージ自体、奇跡ちゃんが捜査陣に仕掛けたフェイク
I thought about that more, like the other one.
C の方は間違いなくそうだろう。女子バスケットボール部員に疑いが向いていることを知った奇跡ちゃんが捜査陣の目をもう一つ違う方向に向けさせようとした。それがカンバル・スルガのファンクラブ。いずれにしても彼女が吸血鬼になりたてだからと考えれば腑に落ちる。証拠隠滅、
The shadows.
でっち上げ、かく乱。
Yes.
人間味に満ちた吸血鬼の人間らしい犯罪。
こんがらがっていた部分を解きほぐすと、要するに順序の問題か。
つまりこういうこと。ミイラが発見された順序は、
Yes.
実際に被害に遭った時系列は、これが
So it was wrong after all, right?
昨夜にかけて起こった連続吸血の真相だ。
へえ、そう なんだ。小利口なことをあれこれ考えるね。あの女子高生も貴様たちも。
しかも、なるほどスーサイドマスターは連続吸血犯ではなかったようだが、しかし少なくとも事の発端である。
Yeah, she caused a problem and she was actually had a victim.
彼女が吸っている。最初の時点では被害者だった奇跡ちゃんが、しかしその後の主犯となれば、被害者が加害者に切り替わる構図。
誰が悪いのかよくわからなくなってきましたね。
次に彼女が狙うのは誰だと思う、小読み。
そりゃやっぱり圧力のあった女子バスケットボール部員ですよね。だから
Probably. But maybe Kanbaru? Oh yes, yes, it's Kanbaru, of course. Or Higasa, maybe.
カンバルスルが日傘生羽体制の集結を奇跡ちゃんが知っているとは限らないし、知っていてもあくまで狙いは現役部員に限っているかもしれないわけで。
Okay.
八九時とスーサイドマスターを二人きりにして残してきたのが若干不安なんですが、大丈夫ですかね。
私が貼ったあの結界は檻に近い。神と鬼で楽しくトークしておいてもらおう。
I mean, they talked leisurely before that.
吸血は悪ではないってことはさておくとしても、吸血鬼にとって眷属を作ることもやっぱり悪じゃないわけですよね。しかも今回のケースでは奇跡ちゃんは明らかに吸血鬼化を利用して私的に
Yeah, very human in a way.
被害者本人にとってプラスになっているんなら、それは悪ではないってことになるんですか。
まあさらに付け加えると、スーサイドマスターは奇跡ちゃんから吸血することにも眷属化することにも失敗している。言うなら未遂だ。
未遂？それはどうでしょう。
I mean, she.
吸血鬼化には成功しているはずでは。
Yeah.
失敗したのは眷属化だよ。忠実なる奴隷が主のミイラを山に埋めたりするかい？
So there is a differentiation, right? You can make a vampire without making a
た
minion.
だの再会の場で着飾るための栄養素のつもりだったはずだ。意図せず吸血鬼にしてしまったという意味ではやはり吸血鬼化も失敗なんだろうな。
どこもかしくも失敗だらけだ。かと思えば失敗だと思っていたことが成功だったりもする。
What are we doing here?
吸血鬼化に失敗したミイラにされた女子高生たちがまだ元通りの人間に戻れる余地があるっていうのはなんとなくイメージできるんですけれど、たとえスーサイドマスターにそのつもりはなくても、成功例である奇跡ちゃんはどうなんです？人間に戻れるんですか？
まず本人に戻りたいと思う気持ちがあるかどうかだよね。
Yeah, that too.
金髪金眼の女子高生か。グレたもんだね。
And you make that. I mean, I guess it's not that common in Japan, right?
私はスルガには近づけないからこのまま。
And she looks like Suicide Master.
別角度からのアプローチを探ってみる。
I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? Acerola also took on the Golden Eyes.
女子高生のパジャマパーティーに潜入してくれ。
She's like, you better behave. You better fucking behave. Yeah, Aragi.
先輩の友達の千丈ヶ原先輩の彼氏さんの大井倉先輩の幼馴染の、そして何よりカンバルのご主人様の直江津高校を卒業した唯一の不良生徒。
Kanbaru is basically just spreading the rumors.
カンバル、お前が温度を取るな。そしてなんだお前のそのパジャマは。
なんだ荒木先輩、荒木先輩ともあろうお方がジョージの邪魔にならないパジャマことめぐり嬢を知らんのか。
お前みたいな後輩を知らないよ。はじめまして。
Aragi, I'm sorry to say you lost.
ところで荒木先輩、どうしても緊急に話さなくちゃいけないことがあるとおっしゃるので、 本女子会への乱入を例外的に許可しましたけれど、いかに荒木先輩と言いましても、ドレスコードは守っていただかないと。
What the fuck do you mean by that? No.
パジャマパーティーなのですから。
He doesn't have a...
分かったよ。でも挨拶もまだのご父兄のパジャマを借りるなんてさすがに気がとがめるな。
Don't.
先輩、ヒロさんに不敬はいないぞ。
え？
というわけで、我が家には今現在女物のパジャマしかありませんが、ご心配なく
No.
女子バスケットボール部を
Run, Aragi, run.
身長には自信があるのです。
うんうん。あるから何？あるから何かな？
I mean, you already have the long hair. Wait, it's already over? What? You can't leave me hanging like this after... It's actually over. I thought that was an after credits or something. Cucked with the Araragi women's pajama preview. I can't believe you did this to me. Actually, I'm enjoying this ED as long as we still have it, right? 2 episodes left. Well, 1 episode left. I mean, as far as I know, Monogatari will be back. But it's probably gonna be more than a year. You can't believe how much I actually listen to this ED when I'm like editing thumbnails or whatever, right? This is like my go-to because when I do Monogatari thumbnails, that's just like that's the standard I'm going for. But yeah, without any further ado, because I also don't have that much time, we're gonna just jump back and we're gonna go through it piece by piece. Probably, like I said, not an extra discussion this week, especially also since I released so many videos that apparently not that many people have been keeping up with it. So that's kind of a shame for me, right? Or maybe it's just people are not that interested in like Shinobumonogatari and were more interested in Waza because Waza had a bunch of views and this one has maybe a quarter of that. But yeah, we're in chapter 36. I really like that. We do join in on the laughing, and I do really like that we're just showing them getting along and us kind of the being out of the situation, right? We see all of these angles of like the back and forth laughing, and it's great, right? Every possible angle. And this is the first shot that really impressed me, where I was like, that is great. We do have the starry sky, which we had last time, and the moon in the middle, and we have the clouds kind of passing by because I mean, it's not a clear night, right? There's like shadows on the horizon, but we have the trees reaching out into the universe, basically, as like white trees especially, right? We do have the bottom, like they start as black, but they go up as like white trees to increase the contrast to the night sky. There are a couple of little splits which are really nice, and just showing the situation, they're getting along swimmingly and all that. And Gaian's like, we should excuse ourselves. Well, Araragi is not a human per se, right? And for all intents and purposes, I would say Araragi is about as much a human as Shinobu is at this point in time. So it's very interesting to see like Gaian being like, us humans should. I mean, obviously, there is a major difference because Shinobu or Kishot has been a vampire since 600 years, right? So she's not a human in that sense. Araragi is more a human in that sense, that he had a normal human upbringing, a normal human lifespan so far. He will not, but he did have so far. So there's that. Ajikuchi keeping... yeah, keeping watch. We do have the quick flash to the monkeys, which I find very nice. And then we are back in the chaos that is Kanbaru's room. And she's like, yeah, I'll brief you. Like, we only found the pieces of, like, right, the things of the last victim, which is Soba Kiseki. And nothing else, right? It was all shoved in the locker, and we're kind of sus on it. And we're like, wait, if that was all shoved into the locker, what was she wearing? But obviously there could be all kinds of explanations, but oftentimes Arkham's razor, right? What is the most likely thing that happened? And that is Kiseki was like, they're on my trail. Let me just pretend I got, I don't know, abducted or whatever, and shove all of that in the locker. And it wasn't found before, that's also a thing, right? They probably checked the lockers before, and now they check it again, and it's like, oh, wait, there's something in there? And Gan being sus as fuck, right? School uniforms, we flash back and forth between that, which I really like. And I do love the angles as well, right? We did see that angle in one of the previous episodes before, when we talked to Higasa and Kanbaru in Kanbaru's room, like the shirts hanging over there. But now we're showing the uniform, right? The school uniform and the basketball uniform. So both of them here. Beautiful boy detective classes teacher. Holy shit, Kanbaru, you need to chill, right? You have an obsession. Nah, it's fine if you have the money for it. It's not as bad as this room, but everything was packed into one big mess. It's like the thing that we're getting in the way, we're randomly shoved in. If Sobaki's mummy had been found first, right? And we do have the basketball on top of all of these like very shakily constructed books, right? It's like almost like we're building a tower and it has a very shaky foundation, like our last victim here. I keep forgetting her name. Soba. Or Kiseki, let's say Kiseki. Kiseki's tower of lies is basically slowly collapsing. Boom booms all coming down. And I noted that ceiling, which was very pretty. We do have a lot of flowers. Hana Monogatari. Anybody? At first it looked kind of like star charts or something, which would have been neat, but... And I do love this shot. Look at this shot, right? We're inside, right? We're talking about things and we're like mostly in the light, like the shadow is just barely cutting us off here, but we are in the light and we're talking, the moonlight is coming in, and we do have this separation between us on a private conversation on the inside and the basketball, which probably like rolled over there through the gap, and on the outside, and we do have like the open space and the soft moonlight out there, and here the light and the shadow contrast is a lot more stark. And we had a similar shot again as Higasa and Kanbaru were talking to Araragi, and we were like halfway, like we were inside, but the door to the outside was open and there was light coming in and whatnot, and the books were in the foreground. So we're using the same backgrounds, the same like environment to actually tell the story again in different conditions, right? From different angles, which is very cool because it means we're not recycling, but we're just recontextualizing in a way. Shoddy cover up, malicious, right? And we're kind of putting the pieces together. I love that with like the light coming in. It kind of reminds me of the like ReZero episode 1, which we had like a similar setting of like the moonlight in like a Japanese building kind of style. Love how parts of this is like actually ordered right on like big towers, and the other parts are just strewn about. But we are right here and we're in the clear, right? We're not in front of the wall, we're in front of the outside, which is shining in, basically. We're kind of slowly putting a light on it, basically. And the monkey, right? The not seeing, not hearing, whatever, right? I did forget from which that came, right? It had something to do with cinema and films and whatnot. I end up at quite a horrible conclusion. This means the investigation intel, and it looks like we're filming from angles that look like somebody is observing us with like slightly shaky camera. I had something similar in like on Patreon with one of my monster reactions lately. One of the episodes had something like that where we suddenly started to kind of film from like a first person perspective approaching somebody, and that's kind of like very signature. Somebody's watching you, somebody's prowling you, somebody's hidden and listening into your conversation, and this is what she's suggesting right here in the convo. Great shot, right? Where she's like head back kind of, right? Being like making assumptions that kind of put her back maybe, right? Put her a little bit, right? She's like, I don't want to think about it, but we're being watched, right? I do still feel like, why are they being watched, right? How are they being watched? Especially by Kiseki. We don't know Kiseki, we don't know, right? She does have to have contact with whom she is talking, or at the very least, maybe have kind of like, I mean, I think Shinobu or Deathtopia would immediately recognize if a vampire was close by, I feel. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe I'm like, Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think like there would be some sensors going off, or at the very least Hachiguchi as like the god or whatever. Especially if she is in the area. I understand that she's still new to all of this, and that's why she didn't have everything in the town under control. She's not omniscient, we know that. But at the very least, if somebody's within her general sphere, she would probably recognize that, I would say. The way the shadow is shining on him, right? Like the really like shadow rays, basically. The opposite of God rays. And we do have birds flying by and us peeking through a hole in the wall, which is very, very symbolic, very nice. Interesting. What is that like? It was like a red shot or something, very close. Like I don't know if it was after I think it was after the intro, right? She's like, and when purple is like the color of, I don't know, I don't know, like the psychological color wheel or whatever. Shout out to Ed. I think I was his reaction to ReZero episode 2, like season 3 episode 2, where he was like analyzing stuff in terms of like the color wheel with the psychological like states of feeling and emotion and whatnot, right? Interesting. Would be interesting to look up what the color here is, but purple I associate with threat, but not imminent threat, right? Like something that is very insidious and behind the scenes, right? It feels like very corruptible, right? Very corruptive. Maybe that's my video game knowledge. Video games oftentimes use corruption, like purple in like conjunction to corruption and whatnot, right? DNA, rudimentary analysis, and it's very close to Deathtopia, and so we're kind of like, and we have like the books in the back, like a DNA of double helix, really great. And we switch like the colors for the different. I love how she's in that shot. It's not a lot, but she's like in the middle of the shot and it's dividing the shot between the dark part and the purple, weird, creepy lighting part. Not that great on framing, but the last one was really great with flash to everything. So no matter how young girls say, I'm forced to apprehend her. Obviously, she's like, yeah, kind of. The evidence speaks to that. I don't want to make that decision. But Aragi's already moving on. He's saying like, in case that's true, is there something that we can do, kind of deal, right? Can we make a deal in order to kind of absolve her of her sins? Which is, right, he wants to resolve this amicably, as Araki does. He wants to help everybody, have understanding for everyone, especially in consideration to the feelings of Shinobu herself. Makes perfect sense to me. And we flash to all of these little scenes that we've seen before. I could have sworn that like this like, first of all, we have seen that one when Kie and Deathtopia actually met up, although I don't know if that ever happened, right? At this point, we know Kiseki and Deathtopia met, so Kie and Deathtopia should have never met if you think about it, because again, this could be unreliable narrator, but we saw Kie coming in and then Deathtopia introducing herself, and it was actually Deathtopia, and then it cut away. So either that never happened, and actually it was Kiseki who introduced herself as such and like pretended to be Deathtopia, which is very likely now that we see that her appearance changed, right, and kind of became closer to Deathtopia, which also kind of answers one of our questions, or my questions, which is, why did Acerola's eyes change to golden? And now we have the answer that maybe you are taking on some of the traits of the person who turned you, which is very interesting. We have the tree, the prominent tree. This lake is either the one where one of the victims was found in, which is probably more likely, or the one where I felt like we moved past that when we were in heaven with Acerola and Aragi. So weird. But I do love how we do have the shadow of the tree reflecting onto the wall, because it feels like shadows are looming, right? We're still like, there's this feeling, right? And it's absolutely beautiful on an artistic level, although I feel like it's not quite like, this is like they painted a shadow onto it and the shadow is not getting broken when we're actually going inside of the room. So there is a little minor mistake there, because it should be like slightly tilted in the way it looks from that angle, right? So when we're actually looking inside the room, the shadow shouldn't be continuously perfectly going on from the wall. The judgment, and she's like sitting outside kind of looking at the sky. All of these beautiful frames, right? I still don't know how she literally survived 600 years starving, but yeah, that inside shot again. And we're kind of contemplating. A lot of this is contemplation, right? A lot of this is like just us being what could have happened? And we do have that, like that top-down shot of Araragi, which is kind of really weird in my opinion, but it's interesting to look at. And now we are actually meeting her for the first time, and she's like introducing herself. The voice actress is doing a fantastic job, I gotta say, right? Really, really great job. I love that. I do love I said that during the reaction, I do love the color composition as well, how we have these orange tints in the background, and we do have like grayscale for her. And the orange kind of really well meshes with the golden of her eyes and the way her red, kind of like her red colors within like her mascara and her like her little ribbon that she has in her hair. That is a very, very good match, that dark orange reddish color, and it also matches very, very well with Shinobu's dress. So like the things that are primarily within our view, right, who kind of jump into our eyes are Shinobu and the rocks, and then her sitting on the rock, and maybe Araragi, but Araragi is already a little bit faded into a degree. Give you my thanks. And did you realize that she is, both of them perk up, they wouldn't have expected that maybe. She's a very proud creature, right? And we knew that from the backstory, but they obviously wouldn't know that as much, right? Wouldn't put that much into it maybe. And it seems I have died yet again, which is, yeah, I knew this, like, I called it. I called this was going to be a thing that she's going to be saying from, like, and Hachikuchi called it too, like a couple of episodes ago. And you have revived me. Oh, I love that shot, right? We're just focusing on like the way she's sitting and how she's putting her arms on her legs and whatnot. And now we have the moon and shining brightly, very big onto Shinobu. When we talk about like, you have revived me, my once minion kiss shot, and we're shining on Shinobu, and she's like thankful for that. And Shinobu's like, I told her everything, yeah. And I almost thought so. I was like, when they would be talking, they'd be like, Shinobu would be like, okay, you know what, I can't lie to you. This is how it is. And that is what she basically did, although we didn't see how it works. The shadow, the kiss shot shadow, oh, that is cool. But I said minion. Though I said minion, I had Princess Asharola rather kiss shot branch out soon after, and she had gone independent, yeah, of course, right? So it's rather tacky to come out pretending to be her guardian, but I heard the rumors that she was exterminated and I couldn't keep myself in retirement, right? She's explaining it, and she's being truthful, right? Which is amazing. I wanted to make sure she was alright, though it's not exactly alright. I mean, it's kind of alright, at least for her at this point, but in between it wasn't alright, right? It wasn't. She's not how she used to be, but she's okay with that situation. At least I feel she's okay with that situation. We made that conclusion at the end of Owari because we actually would have been able to continue on with her being kiss shot and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure she could have been like, obviously all the specialists would have been like, we gotta eliminate you now, and she would have been like, you can't, right? Because I mean, there's gotta be special circumstances. Like it took Kiss Shot actually wanting to die for them to be able to actually eliminate her, like Oshino to actually be able to eliminate her, arrange all of these like episode and guillotine cutter and dramaturgy to actually get her limbs and whatnot, to fight her together and whatnot. And even then it was her actually wanting to die. So I do think, like Shinobu, it's very interesting. Not in this shot, but in all the other shots, she looks a lot more mature this episode. In terms of like, in comparison to how we saw her last episode, and especially the episode before that when she first appeared. She looks a lot more mature. I do wonder if it's her facial expression or if they purposefully kind of drew her slightly more mature. Not in this shot. It's also interesting how weirdly she bends, right? The way like she stands almost with her knees bent the other way, right? I used to do that as a kid, and it's not very healthy, but you know, it's not terrible, of course. I do love how she's half in shadow, half in light. Now that I've confirmed that she's alright, I'd like to hurry back to my hideout, but she's like, seems we got a problem though. But she doesn't care about that. She didn't care about like, and then we reveal that with the food poisoning, but before that, holy shit, what a shot. Like that is like a solar eclipse kind of shot. What the fuck, that is menacing. That is basically the red moon that we had in Wasamonogatari, but overshadowed with, I don't know what's in front of the red moon, but something is in front of it. It looks kind of like a solar eclipse, right? Where the sun is in front, like the moon is in front of the sun and like starts shining in kind of a very reddish way at some point in time. Not when you're completely over, then you have like the golden colors, like the corona around, but like the in between there's phases where infrared is coming through and then like it looks like that and it's imposing as fuck, right? It looks evil, but yeah. And she looks really great there with like really badass, right? But while I have a chance, I'd like to just see just how well this prince performs, right? She's like, are you worthy? And he's like, yeah, Shinobu's family is my family, right? I'll do what I can, but before that, we need to clear this. And everything is still in like grayish white color, which I really like because it feels like almost like we're transported in another dimension, almost like we're kind of on a different playing field at the moment. We're like, this is an important conversation. The way the room bends behind him as well. And then we show that again, that shot that I loved so much last episode with the shrine. The shovel from like down below when we're almost lying on the ground and we're looking up at the bamboo and the shovel is in the ground. And it was like somebody else shoveled me down there, but there's a simple answer to me, like, and I need to get that. I need to understand that. Even after living 1,000 years, that was the first time that I died in such a fashion as far as I can remember. But why? Right? That is the question. What do you mean? He's like surprised. Because of their food poisoning. And he's like, I'm sorry, what? Right? Like that meme. I ate something strange. Let's see, in Japanese, you call foodstuffs high school girls. But yeah, that can't be it, right? Like just eating a young girl or whatever. It's like there is something specific about the way she did it that kind of low-key poisoned her. I do love how we do have like all of these. The snake in the background, very interesting how she's like the snake shrine, right? On the snake shrine, and she was like, and the blink in red. Holy fuck! Look at that. Right? The apple flying by, and then she's blinking, and all of her facial features are in red, and then we have the red dot of her just being a smear. The actual real life probably sky shot of Japan. And she was surprised how weak she has become, right? The problem was, I didn't enter this country breaking through a strong barrier that had amazing power because I lacked such amazing power. I was able to enter this country with ease. And she was like, I was shocked to find I've been weakened to this extent, all right? And we bite away at the apple and she's getting smaller. And so I love that. I love that symbolism, right? And this picture is beautiful. Look at that shit. Like, holy fuck. Yeah, and she's regressed and she didn't want to see Shinobu like that. I wouldn't get to rekindle an old friendship. Instead, I would make her worry, right? She didn't want to be pitied. I had some pride as someone who had lived so long. I had pride as the one who created her and the one who named her, right? I am, like imagine that, like a mother or father who at some point in time becomes older, right? And then you have your child who is in the prime of their life. And you show up, but for whatever reason you haven't seen each other in a while, and then they see how weak you have become, and it's natural, right? It's perfectly natural, and that's fine. That's how it works, right? That's how it happens. Although for her, it's kind of, I feel like the question is she just being stubborn because maybe she could have fed, right? But either way, even if it's due to your own, right? Due to your, because of your own fault, I don't know, you have some problems, right? You get that a lot in mental illness where you do have like people having certain ideas about the world, right? Certain worldviews, certain cognitions, certain basic principles that they live their life off, and maybe it's not always optimal for them, right? And maybe it gets them into situations where they're feeling weak and vulnerable, where they're not doing so hot, right? And then, but even then, seeing somebody very close to them that they've been maybe with in the past, that when they were still doing good and right, doing perfectly fine and whatnot, and then like showing to them how weak you are, even if it's due to your own behavior, and even if you could change that behavior, and you could change, maybe especially if you could change that behavior, but you're too stubborn, you're too like, there's something keeping you on that behavior, right? Something on a principle matter. People often, they're embarrassed about that, right? at the same time unable to move on and to change what's keeping them, like what's holding them down, but also unable to present that to the outside, right? Unable to be like, yes, because they are aware to a degree that it's behavior that's self-destructive, right? They're aware to a degree that it is something that is hurting themselves, but they don't value themselves enough, or at the very least, maybe they hold too strongly onto these things, these ideals or whatever that is, right? To actually let go. But they know, some part of them knows that they're not doing themselves a favor, that they're doing harm to themselves. And although they don't have enough motivation, or at least can't manage to change that right now, right? I mean, down the line probably, but right now, they're still unable to show themselves in front of other people because they perceive that as a weakness, because there's a part of themselves that knows that it's not good for them, right? Know that maybe they're not at the top of their game because of that. And it's very difficult, right? Because there's all of these feelings, shame, guilt, right? Pride, holding on to an ideal that is in the past, right? Holding on to you in your prime, right? When you're long past your prime, and there's nothing bad about that, but there's like these ideas about strength, about like persistence, about resilience and endurance, about being strong mentally, but also strong physically, that we hold on to. And it's really hard to let go of them and understand that it's natural, right? And understand that sometimes maybe it is that meeting with that person that gets us to, in the end, gain the motivation to actually change our behavior. I don't know how it is for Deathtopia in this case, right? I mean, she's lived thousands of years. At this point, she could just be like, okay, whatever. The question is, does she want that to happen? And the other question is that important to her? That she shows that she is to a level superior, or at the very least that she is on a certain level of power, on a certain level of strength, despite her preferences, right? Or maybe that she can overcome them or whatever, right? It's so weird, because Shinobu would be worried either way. She would be worried if she found out that she's been feeding on something else out of desperation or whatever, right? Because obviously she would know that Deathtopia would be struggling with that she would be like, am I betraying the person I am, right? Am I betraying my principles by doing these things? Right? And that would hurt her mentally. The other thing hurts her physically, right? I mean, there's a lot of people out there who have behavior that is borderline suicidal, that is maybe going in the direction of self-harm and all of these things. That includes eating disorders, that includes other stuff, right? Depression, anxiety, all of these things can perpetuate behavior that is self-destructive. And this self-destructive behavior, we don't want to show that to people because it's kind of embarrassing to us, because it's kind of like, it feels like we're weak, right? Because we can't control these behaviors and they hurt ourselves. And then people worry about us, and that's the least thing we want as somebody who is not valuing themselves as much, right? I mean, I guess Deathtopia is valuing herself a lot, but right, it's a little bit more complicated than that. But there's a lot of elements that we can transfer here, and it's very interesting that she's like, I was so prideful, I didn't want her to think she's the same as ever, but also didn't want her to think she changed, right? I didn't want her to think she's washed up, basically, right? And that is a weird thing, right? Like, trying to meet somebody at the same height and struggling with that, even if I couldn't return to my complete form. Now that's my old friend, right? Recognition, she wanted that. Be like close to her. And it's very interesting because for all her life, Acerola hasn't had that behavior, right? Because she wasn't bound by that gourmet stuff. But this is how she gotten to know Deathtopia. And so this would be her old friend, right? So she needs to hold on to her principles at the same time as actually wanting to regain her form that makes her recognizable as the imposing creature that she is. Although I think that they did a very good job at still displaying her as very imposing despite her very, very short form, right? As opposed to Shinobu, which is often displayed very cute, right? Which is, though, a choice by her and by Araragi in terms of like perception and whatnot. I do feel like that is the conscious choice of like actually wanting to be that way. It's kind of an understanding. And she's like, I gotten weak. Not weak, but like I went for local foodstuffs. And we explained that. Descending from the mountain, right? And we kind of flash Kier, which I find very interesting because it's actually not Kier, as we find out later. At the very least, that's our working theory at this point in time. And I don't get why she got food poisoning. And set my eyes on a high school and walking along in the street. To be frank, anyone would have been fine. That's why this is divine punishment. If I did something along the lines of picking and choosing, that foodstuffs would be considered equal to the beautiful princess. Well, in any case, in hindsight, I lack the respect towards foodstuffs. This country has certain customs, right? Like itadakimasu. I never understood that. Thanking for the food. Appreciation for food? I don't get it. Eating to begin with is supposed to be the act that toys with lives in the best way, right? Like a cat, like I said, right? Cats play with their food, kinda. It's entertainment. But that's why for me, eating wasn't to live. Eating was to love, right? To enjoy life. Kind of almost hedonistic in a way, you would say. I should have mouthed itadakimasu at the moment. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Interesting. That's what I should have done. You think this would have not happened with the food poisoning? Is the food poisoning actually a thing that's within herself? Or is it something that is a new rule that we didn't know about in terms of like the vampire stuff? So it's very interesting because obviously in her home country that wouldn't be the case, right? So the question is, what exactly about this interaction, right? About the lack of respect for the food. What exactly about that is the problem? Is it that society has that expectation, right? That convention of doing that. And since she is an oddity and is, I think somebody said, born of human emotions, and that is how it's written in the light novel, apparently, or explained by Shinobu in the light novel or whatever. So if she is an actual oddity, born of human emotions, born as a vampire, very interesting. Would be very interesting to explore that part more, but if she is that kind of oddity, I do wonder if she's the original vampire, but who knows. Then she's obviously, like every other oddity, prone to the collective unconscious, right? To the perception of people and social norms and whatnot. And if she changes the country, it would make sense that what she has to adhere to is kind of what's within the cognition of the people present here, which would be that respect for food, right? That is maybe not, right? Almost, I feel like almost this is a metaphor, right? Or a simile for the changes or the differences between Eastern cultures and Western cultures, because in Western cultures, we do lack that often, right? I mean, that existed once upon a time in our culture as well, but it exists more in like American native indigenous people, right? Same with like, I think same with Australian indigenous people, but also like with Eastern countries where there's a lot more appreciation and thankfulness for the food that you get. Now, obviously, like I said, it's been that way back in the day for us, right? It was heavily tied to Christian culture as well, right? To a religion and all of that stuff, where there was like every meal you'd say thank you for the meal and stuff like that. There was that. But it feels like Western culture lost that in the modern era, while a lot of like the Eastern cultures, especially the Japanese, kept that up to a degree. So it's very interesting how that is different and how maybe that difference kind of nipped her in the bud, right? I do still wonder how that actually works mechanically, right? Like maybe somebody explains it later, Gan or whatever. That would be very interesting to know. But I kind of get it, I think. She looks very mangled there. Right, and it's basically poison. I don't know why she empathizes the high school girl. Is there something about that? Or is it more like just, yeah, accidentally, right? I got somebody from this country, local foodstuffs, right? And then like the metaphor is food poisoning, right? You eat something from another country, your bowels, everything else is not used to it. And that is basically her being like a different entity, but coming into this country, it's being prone to like the cultural ecology of basically Japan. And then that actually biting back on her, like I don't know, drinking tap water in a foreign country, basically. Because there's other bacteria in there, and then you, for a short period, you're like kind of feeling unwell because of that. Holy shit, what a shot. Right, and we do Oh, this eye shot of like the coffin and whatnot. Dude, so much amazing stuff happening here. It's insane. Right, and we played through somebody had to have been a vampire. I thought it was Kia because we saw that Kia interaction and whatnot. But then we have the triple fake out, and it's like, oh no, it wasn't Kia, it was actually Kiseki, right? The last one. Like, holy shit, yeah, okay. I mean, so we're only being shown that because was the original assumption, and this is how Araragi is telling the story. I guess that, at least that's how I think. Also head tilt, nice. Do have that beautiful, beautiful painting, which is like very, to a degree, very sensual. And then we have like, I repeat my sentence, like the schoolgirls almost look like Araragi, like the ones who are mummified, and now this one, like it looks kind of very, very much like Araragi. But yeah, great shot with like the half shadow on the face, and we're like looking from down up. It's very interesting how we're rolling that up, right? And obviously the basketball members would have let their defense down completely if they recognized Kiseki, if they recognized her. Also, if they didn't recognize her, it would have been easy for her to be like, I am Deathtopia, Virtuoso, Suicide Master, right? Because she has introduced herself to everybody so far like that, so it's easy to kind of just copy that and be like, oh yeah, I love that shot. We played through, right? We don't know the specifics, right? But like just, there's a lot of deception going on. Either they believed her and put that code in and we're like, holy shit, there's somebody out there just like Deathtopia, no? Or Kiseki herself did it and wrote it down and just placed it on the victim. Either way, it's the same difference because Kiseki was the one who kind of put out the deception, right? The obfuscation, all the holy shit, the 4 shadows coming from him. I do wonder if like or 5 shadows almost. You have the squiggly lines of the eyes like it was with Nadeko, that one. A vampire filled with the human touch, committing a very human crime. Yes, because the vampire was until recently still human, right? There is like still that close connection to being a human. You have to think about the fact that Acerola, for the longest time, even before she became Kiss Shot, was not really a common human. She was like, she had that weird phenomenon where she brought entire countries to ruin, right? She wasn't just a human. So her distance from humanity was already so far. And now here we have somebody who is more closer to what Araragi would probably have been in Kizu. Thinking on very human terms. Araragi was thinking on human terms too, even when he was a vampire. He was like, shit, I can't be a vampire, right? I would be killing people and eating people, and he was kind of getting into that, the whole scenario. And even when he was a vampire, was fighting like dramaturgy and whatnot, he was still thinking as a human. He felt himself as a human, and that is why he was so afraid, right, to fight him and then be like, right? There was this constant back and forth between him being very much almost blind to danger, right, in his like vampireness, but at the other hand, like suddenly getting these moments of like, oh shit, right, thinking like a human still. And we do have to kind of think that probably this was the case for Soba Kiseki here, that she is still thinking like a human. And like this was how we found them, right? Kie, Aburi, Guyomi, Deathtopia, Misago, Soba, but actually it was Kiseki Soba who was the first one, and then she had all the other victims, and it was a switcheroo, right? And I love how we're flashing these cards in the same art style and all of that. Deathtopia being impressed by how much we actually think at this point in time. The moon being imposing is a beautiful shot, right? Right. How it's like it's taking off so much of the frame and the entire sky is bending around it. It's almost like it's pressuring down on us, and it's the full moon. Right, so we go and we flash the kanji again, right? The golden arrow, which could also have started it all. Kiseki might not necessarily know the gathering of the circle, right? Of the original captains, the alumni and whatnot. And even if she did, she may be limited targets to only current team members. Interesting that current team members are still within that alumni club meeting that we have here. Maybe the captains, right? The ones who are not playing themselves anymore. Teachers, not teachers, but trainers. And he's uneasy about like Hachikuji staying with them. But hey, They got along fine last time, right? So it should be fine. Should be fine in general. Still going across this crazy like highway situation. I wonder what they were doing with that. That was like crazy. I thought this is to succeed in vampirization. That was another thing where I'm still not sure if I actually get it. I mean, I get she didn't succeed in making a minion, but succeeded in making a vampire, kind of. But the question is, there is an in-between? We didn't know that existed. She failed at making her a minion. Yeah, right. Faithful slave, rah, 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 rah. We're going to believe the statement of Suicide Master. It was nothing more than a source of nutrients to dress up for a reunion, right? But she turned the girl into a vampire unintentionally means that she did fail in the vampirization as well. Right, so the vampirization means you make a minion, and if you don't make a minion, then it's not really a vampirization, but the person is still a vampire, so it's like... And he's like, Aragi's arguing, if that is a failed vampirization, is it possible to turn her back? Is that a thing, right? Because obviously everything here is up for interpretation. Everything is up to how, I guess, the universal law kind of interprets through human subconscious cognition how this is supposed to work, which kind of makes everything a little bit bendy, right? And heavily based on culture. And that said, what we thought was a failure turned out to be a success. I can vaguely imagine that there might be room for the high school girls who became mummies that failed vampirization to revert being human again. I can hardly. Okay, interesting. How she she did fail the vampirization. It's all a failure. And that said, what we thought was a failure turned out to be a success. I can vaguely imagine that there might be room. Okay, she's saying I can vaguely imagine, like, there is a chance that we can turn them back. Even if Suicide Master didn't plan for it to happen, the successful case of Kiseki. What do you think? Will she be able to return? First off, it's about whether or not she has a feeling of wanting to turn back, right? Like, Aragi wanted to turn back then. Interesting how she changed from that into blonde and blue. And then we have like the Photoshop kind of, where she's just changing the colors and she's like, this is how she should look. And we're kind of just interesting that she took over not only the golden eyes, but also the blue, which is interesting. Also explains why people didn't recognize her. She wasn't in her clothes. She had like different colored hair and different colored eyes. So people were like, right, even if the face shape is similar, there is no thing, right? As a first year college student with a good sense, Aragi's all, oh shit, no, please. This is gonna be so hard. He's like, he's squirming, like the squiggly auge. Him getting like flustered and nervous and whatnot. And we do have the shot, which is like, of course they would make like the perfect fucking shot here. But they're all kind of like Kanbaru, which is like hilarious. I mean, most of them, right? They're like, or at least they practiced that beforehand. They knew he was coming and were like, this is how we're gonna do it. Holy shit. Aragi, I mean, can we switch? Kind of. Some of them are college age, aren't they? At least like the one on the right side of Kanbaru looks kind of like a college student, I would say. Also, yes, hell yes. Probably my favorite out of all of them. The one on the right side of Kanbaru. Anytime. But yeah, really diverse, really nice. Yeah, and of course Kanbaru with the most provocative dress, of course. Aragi's like, what are you wearing? To think someone like you wouldn't know about that always stay out of the way of love affairs, and I don't know you. Nice to meet you for the first time. But they're like he's throwing it away and he's being embarrassed, and they're like absolutely having a blast. And he doesn't know what he's... I mean, I wouldn't know either. Honestly, Aragi, I wouldn't know either. Like, you lost the moment you put foot into that room, honestly. But yeah, and now we're actually onto like the order of business, or are we? Aragi apparently is getting a makeover, and I saw that coming when she was like, you gotta do the dress code. And I'm like, no. Doesn't have any father or brother. Also, ouch with the father, but yeah. if he's gonna make it out alive, he will be a changed man. And that's it. Leave me on that fucking cliffhanger. What the fuck? Yeah, a lot of cool, interesting, fun stuff in there. Like I said, probably not gonna get to do a discussion. Maybe I will do a short view over like the art and whatever, and we do it in the beginning of next episode. I could maybe squeeze it in front of or after the comment spotlight, which I'm probably gonna do. That being said, that was Monogatari Off-Season Monster Season episode 13, and I actually, aside from like us making the conclusion where I was like, earlier than halfway, I was actually already at the conclusion, probably because we had a similar theory in the Discord, kind of, where I was like, yeah, this is kind of very likely to be the case, and the only difference was I thought it was Kie and not like the last victim. But after that, like, actually I thought that this was a really good episode, right? The talk with Deathtopia, like the back and forth, the thank you, right? The way we put that down, and also the art and the imagery was really good. I feel like people are giving Mono a little bit of too much of a hard time in the last arc in Shinobumonogatari here, because I do feel like it was very well done. And I do feel all of these moments of us actually doing the investigation, trying to find out what's happening, being confused, kind of going off of hypotheses and theories and whatnot. I think all of that is kind of doesn't lend itself as well to high tier animation as opposed to some of the other discussions that we had beforehand, especially with strong emotional themes. And Nadeko Draw is probably, in my opinion, one of the best arcs of the entire Monogatari series, right? It had such strong emotional themes, and it brought a storyline that was so long, right? Like went over multiple arcs and concluded in an amazing way. Probably not final conclusion for Nadeko, but a very big milestone and step for her in her development. And it came together so well that I think none of the other arcs really have a chance to do that, because Nadeko is one of the like most relatable people in the Monogatari like franchise, I do feel, much like Araragi, because we do have such a strong connection to that character. She was in Bake, all the way back in Bake. We do have all of that stuff, that history, and we have the relatability of somebody who is a human, right? Who grew up a human with human problems and human situations and all of that stuff. We do have that foot in the door, basically, which we don't for Acerola, because even when she was a human, she was still a very extraordinary creature, right? This extraordinary human. And this experience is so fundamentally alien to anybody of us, right? Living in the modern age, living with modern human problems, that I do feel like you just can't establish such a strong connection to the emotional themes and the character development that we had in Nadeko Draw. And that is why Nadeko Draw episode 6 is still my absolute favorite episode of this new Monogatari series, right? Of this new Monogatari season. Still, right? But that doesn't in no way mean that I don't absolutely love the last couple of episodes. I think like there's a couple of things in there where they really had to get creative, because for all of these emotional themes in Nadeko Draw, it was kind of easier to be like, oh yeah, like this is the perfect image to kind of encapsulate this. And now we deal a lot with mystery. We deal a lot with unsure things, right? Hypotheses, right? Thinking about things, going through them logically, stuff like that. Yeah, you can be playful with them, and they were. Like they were in many places, right? We had hour-long discussions about their art and the way we put it and how we create a scene and atmosphere and all of that. And that it hit home, but obviously it makes sense that it can't hit as much as the Nadeko stuff. It can't. And maybe this next episode, maybe we do have something in there, right? A heart-to-heart between Shinobu and Deathtopia, maybe as they part ways again, or however we end this whole thing for now, right? I'm sure this isn't the last we've seen of Deathtopia, but maybe there's something in there that's gonna hit us, right? On an emotional level, and then also on a visual level. And I'm sure Shaft's gonna deliver on that. That being said, I still think they did a very good job with this arc. Despite some minor maybe lowering of the budget in some transitional scenes and whatnot. Overall, it has been a very, very fun arc. And as far as I know, a lot of the light novel readers have been telling me that Wasamonogatari was a relatively good adaptation of that part of the story, that arc. So I do feel like we shouldn't be too harsh on Shaft. They already are at a very, very high level. I value them higher than anybody else. Like, no other show does stuff like that. At least not consistently like that. But yeah, I'm enjoying myself. That was... once again, that was Shinobumonogatari episode 5, and I do hope on episode 6 we have a nice conclusion. We'll have our confrontation, and we maybe hopefully still have like a heart-to-heart with Deathtopia. I would love to know more about her, get more out of her, right? Have her talk more with Aragi and Shinobu and whatnot. Because while we had our reunion, obviously, there wasn't that much room to talk because we had to talk to one another in order to figure out this whole mess here, but once it's concluded, maybe actually we do have a little bit time. 5 minutes, 6-7 minutes to actually have Aragi and Deathtopia have their second, more casual meeting, see eye to eye talk shop, right? And Shinobu too sitting there and us concluding on something interesting. Because that is a big chapter in Shinobu's arc. And I feel Shinobu's arcs, plural, are not done yet, but at the very least, this is a big step, right? We've gotten a lot of Shinobu content, which I absolutely love. I'll be seeing you next week for the finale. Hopefully everything works out, right? And until then, check out the Discord, check out the Patreon, check out all the other stuff. See ya.